understand you guys are doing a lot of work around the metaverse. So I wanted to understand, like, what sort of an approach do you feel should, businesses be looking at? Should they be looking at starting from scratch, or maybe using an existing platform and building on top of that? Like, for in this case, Second Life and Minecraft are something that have like hordes of users right now, hordes of die-hard users. I mean, would it make more sense to add blockchain aspects to those platforms, or is it really essential to build from scratch?
I think, Rohan, the answer to that would be slightly, I would there are certain layers to it, right? So it depends to begin with, it depends on a lot of things. For example, when I look at metaverse from the point of view of businesses, right, the first question that you should ask is, what is the core business of that business, right? Let's say if that business is into social networks, for example, something like Meta, which already has a huge captive audience on their other platforms. So definitely it would make sense for them to create something of their own, right? So it may make sense, right? But let's say for something, for example, for a automotive company, right, which wants to create strong VR experiences, and they want to capture that new market segment, which is like the Web3 native market segment, which goes to these metaverses and experiences of the digital world in a totally different way, right? So for them, it may make sense to leverage the metaverses which are already there. So essentially,
okay.
Like very briefly, it depends on what is the core business that you have. It does not make sense for every business to create their own metaverse experience. Like that does not make sense at all, because that's not using your best, whatever you are best at. You should kind of focus very, very nicely on that, and then leverage people who have already created these metaverses. For example, and I think not just so NFT created that Commerce, right, which is a commerce focused metaverse. Now, for any retail brand, it, rather than creating their own metaverse, what would make sense is become part of that retail focus, because all of the
definitely, I mean, they don't want to make that their core competency. They want to focus on what they do best.
All of the rails that are needed for that, be it payments, lead generation, your VR experiences, all of that is pre-built into that experience. You need not create your own stuff. So that's one. And I think secondly, it's also a philosophical question. For example, you mentioned Second Life. Second Life is what we call Web2 kind of a metaverse, which is still centralized. Then there is this another philosophical way of thinking at it, where it's at its core, it is decentralized, right? So Second Life can get some of the elements from the Web3 type of metaverses, for example, ownership of digital assets, etc., and merge it into whatever experience.
I mean, they have a version of that. I mean, they have their own currency called the Linden dollar, if I'm not mistaken. And then they even have an exchange. They even have an exchange where you can, whatever you earn inside, you can actually bring that into the real world. So, I mean, going into the blockchain space with that, for me, would be the most obvious way to go around it, if that's possible.
Linden dollar has been there for a long time. Like, it's not something
for a while, yeah.
It has been there. So Second Life launched 2003, if I am not wrong, right? It has been there for long. But now the idea is that world. So essentially, what Second Life is doing, they're trying to, let's say, close the ecosystem that they are into, their own dollars and all of that. What Web3 is trying to do is open this up with a lot of different experiences which are interconnected. You have assets which are interchangeable, so on and so forth. So I think that's the second aspect which needs to be valued.